Okay, so please don't go away. We still have, the highlight of this afternoon, the panel, and of course, there's a presentation of research and academic thing right after this one. And I'm about to introduce to you our next presenter. And this is to deepen today's theme. We have a distinguished academic and researcher whose expertise connects psychology and Filipino identity. He is the chair of the Department of Psychology at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and a leading figure in Psikolohiyang Pilipino. Once again, let's all welcome on stage our presenter. Let's all welcome Mr. Professor J. Yaka. A warm round of applause, please. Sir?
Thank you very much and good afternoon, everyone. Special greetings uh, uh, to the organizers of this forum from ICE1. Let me enumerate them. Mr. Simon Grange, the Chief Executive of ICE1. Mr. Rene Anderson, the Chair of the Board. Mr. Michael John Esplago, a trustee from ICE1. The manager of Ice One Philippines, Mr. Marvel Espago. Good afternoon also to Vice Admiral Eduardo Maria Santos, the President of MAAP. Maritime industry reps, our beloved seafarers, representatives from the government, and guests, good afternoon. It is my pleasure and honor to be with you this afternoon. It took an unfortunate event, a typhoon, to bring us all together. We were supposedly scheduled to have met last month, and it was canceled and rescheduled for this morning. But if the event pushed through this morning, I won't be able to come because we had, well, if there were classes, we had a meeting. So I think it was fortuitous that it was again rescheduled for this afternoon. And I'll be able to share with you some of our advocacy. This is the first time actually that I will be interacting with the maritime industry, and it's a pleasure, for us and also for the department to be able to talk to you about one of our core advocacies in UP Department of Psychology, which is Sikoloyang Pilipino. I'm not sure I was asked before the program started if what I will share is something eye-opening. I'm not very sure. But I do hope that the Filipinos in the audience would resonate with some of the things that I will share. I'm not sure about our foreign guests, no, if this will be entirely new to them, no, but I do hope that you will find something meaningful, no, from what I will be sharing with you. And I do hope that you will not get bored with the presentation. I will try my very best to be as brief as possible. And if you do have questions after the presentation, and if we do have time, please ask them. So I will talk to you about so how was I invited to this event? This is because of Karen Paula Suligin, who is a graduate student of mine and who is a consultant for ICE One, and she was really pushing me now to uh, provide a sharing, no, and she talked about the advocacy of adopting a more Filipino perspective to our mental health programs or approaches, uh, especially in discipline that is really very Western oriented or very colonial. I don't know if these are big words for us, no, but uh, please be patient with me. No, so we entitled this presentation "The Silent and Silenced," and we'll talk to you about what these particular themes are, and when we apply the Sikoloyang Filipino perspective to understand the Filipino seafarers' distress. No. Okay. So I think that this is not news to everyone, no, but the Filipino seafarers are considered to be the backbone of global shipping. No? So if you see this, the Philippines is the number one supplier for of seafarers globally, and we make up 1/4 of all seafarers, no, 25%. No, that's a lot. In 2024, there were almost 500,000 no, that we have sent out globally as part of the maritime industry. And the staggering number also reflects massive economic contributions to the Philippines. The seafarers are contributing 7 billion US dollars to the Philippine economy. So that's a big number. No, in the recent discussions about corruption, no, this is talking about 7 billion billions of pesos is hard to imagine, no. So if you multiply that number to 60 pesos, no, so that's an amount that most of us will not see in our lifetime, no. And this accounted for 10% of the Philippines economy. However, the very economic-oriented framing of the contributions of our seafarers obscures the high cost of the high human cost of this kind of labor. So, what is the psychological cost, no, for almost 500,000 no, seafarers, no, being on board globally, no? So many seafarers would say that the work is hard. No, the work is difficult, but that is not the most challenging aspect of the work. No, that's part of it. So when they applied, no, for jobs on board, no, this is part of the work. So they have accepted that working as a seafarer is a difficult job. No? But it is the pain of being away from your family and loved ones, no, for prolonged periods of time is something that is very difficult, no, to cope with. And this is compounded by long periods of isolation, and sometimes you get extended, no, unpredictably. The unpredictable long work hours, and sometimes you also get entangled with interpersonal conflicts on board. You know. However, no, the work is difficult. No, there are some aspects of the jobs that are a job that is also psychologically challenging, but also structurally, no, the work is very precarious. No, and this is a term that I've learned, no, while preparing for this presentation. No, the FOC system creates additional layers of problems for our seafarers. No? So they are faced with contractual insecurity and limited labor protections. No? I will point to you, and I don't know if this is very new, no, but we have always prided ourselves, no, not just the seafarers, but Filipinos, no, as being resilient, no. But I will point to you to the fact, no, that this becomes a trap, no. So when the Filipino seafarers are marketed and stereotyped as obedient and compliant, resilient and hardworking, happy and cooperative, they seem to be very innocuous because they seem to be very positive traits or characteristics. No, but I think the Philippine government, is complicit in reifying and reinforcing this particular stereotype to make the Filipino seafarers more quote-unquote globally competitive. No? And therefore, ideal for export. But there are some dangers in buying into this particular stereotype. So this is, while positive, no, this could be very harmful. No? So it forces seafarers to suppress their emotional pain because they are marketed as being always happy. So if they're having problems, they are forced no, to hide their pain behind smiles. So, in order for their bosses no, to see them to, for example, want to promote a positive atmosphere on board. And because they Filipino seafarers are stereotyped to be compliant, no, so they when they are asked, "Do you have any problems?" They will say, "No, we don't have problems." So if there are orders, then they will be always ready to say, "Yes, sir." No. So, reinforcing the stereotype that Filipino seafarers are naturally resilient justifies the neglect of mental health and labor rights. No, do we need to have robust mental health support programs? But you are already resilient anyway. So what happens is that if we only focus on the resilience of people, no, it makes seafarers suffering invisible, leading to burnout, isolation, and untreated mental health concerns. How do seafarers describe their life on board? No, and one fact no, that we have to accept is that the statistics highlight racialized hierarchies on board ships. So this is a table that we can show no, for countries in the global south like the Philippines and Indonesia. So there is a disproportionate amount of ratings versus officers. No? So there are more ratings or non-officers from these countries. No? If we compare the proportions to those countries from the global north. So for example, no, and it's very clear, for example, US, Japan, Russia, no, there are more officers than ratings. But for the two global south countries and they are the two largest suppliers of seafarers globally, no, the trend is opposite. No, there are more ratings, no, there are more lower ranked persons on board than officers. I think the latest figures we have for the Philippines around 2024 or 22 or the more recent one, the actual proportion is 72% for ratings and 28% for officers. No, that's the figure for the Philippines, the most recent one. Okay. So why is this important to point out? Because this translates to other structural concerns. And we are talking about pay gaps. No? So if we compare the salaries no, of different positions on board and compare them by race, no, for example, Asian nationals versus Eastern Europeans versus EU nationals and US nationals, we can see a very large disparity. No? So we can see that even if Filipinos, for example, are doing the same work, no, like their Eastern European and US counterparts, they are significantly paid less for the same amount of work. And that is the reality of no, the job. No? And that gives or provides additional burden to our Filipino seafarers. Because people can see that they're doing the same work and they're not getting the paid the same. So there is injustice in the way that the job is structurally created no, for Filipino seafarers. And this provides things that they think about. So you think about the danger aboard. So the previous speakers have mentioned the threats of piracy on board, being imprisoned, no, in different ports, etc. So this provides, no, sources of distress to Filipino seafarers. No? But if we provide them with the available mental health interventions, we find that they fall short. And why? Especially for Filipinos, because standard Western mental health models are a poor fit. Why? First, they focus on individual symptoms. Even the idea that we have to foster resilience is an individual focused mechanism. Because you are telling seafarers that you are the only one who can answer your problem. No? And you are the only one responsible to raise your resilience. And if you are not able to do that, who is to blame? The individual, because they are not resilient. And that is what many of our models are based on. Now, focused on individual symptoms, will focus on individual interventions, focused on individual mechanisms. So many Filipinos do not go to professional mental health services. No. And why is that? It's because the interventions often lack cultural relevance. So for example, I think the most immediate factor, I think, is language. So when you go to professional mental health services, you are required to speak in English. So especially on board that, and even for our telemental health interventions, they are required to talk about their problems in a foreign language. So if you want to really help, then you have to adjust. But many of our interventions do not do that. So they are required. I've heard of stories that seafarers are required to use English all the time. No, even if they are talking to their fellow men or fellow country people, no, to be more gender sensitive, no. So that creates a different layer of strain, no. So for those who have been abroad, no, and you are forced to speak a foreign language, no, in a prolonged period of time, you know, when you finally get a chance to use your own language, no, you will feel a sense of relief or comfort, right? No, so in Filipino, ay salamat, makakapagsalita na ako, no. That is that has a particular positive impact, no. But for many Filipinos who do not use English, no, or whose English is not their first language, no, being required to use English all the time, no, gives us additional psychological strain. So if your services are in English, no, expect that it will not be effective. So only, I think, in the only interventions in English that are effective, I think, are only for those who are very rich, no? Yung mga politicians natin, baka, no? So they are the ones who will take advantage of the efficacy of these interventions. And third, no, our interventions, the standard interventions, use diagnostic categories that miss Filipino cultural nuances of distress. No? Before, we've heard of terms such as depression, PTSD. No? So these are particular terms, no, that people in the mental health profession use a lot. No? But they are diagnostic categories that were created from different cultures, and they do not necessarily map onto Filipino cultural experiences. No? So what we are proposing to you is an alternative framework that we could use. And this is called Sikoloyang Pilipino. And Sikoloyang Pilipino has been in existence in the Philippines as a formal discipline since the 1970s. Actually, we are celebrating our 50th year this year, and we will hold our conference in a few weeks, no, November 27 to 29. No. Sikoloyang Pilipino was championed in the 1970s by psychologist Virgilio Enriquez. And Sikoloyang Pilipino critiques the very colonial bias of Western psychology. No? And I think this is true for all disciplines in the Philippines. And even our medical profession is very colonial. No? It focuses on a psychology based on local realities, concepts, and ways of thinking and doing things. So, if there's a theme or slogan for Sikoloyang Pilipino, it's Filipino first. No? So, what are the realities that are relevant to us? What concepts do we use, no, to understand our existence, our experiences? And these are the ones that we use to explain things such as mental health. No? So why is Sikoloyang Pilipino? Why does it matter? Especially for when we talk about seafarer well-being. Sikoloyang Pilipino challenges colonial narratives that frame Filipino seafarers as docile, exportable labor. No. It exposes global labor hierarchies and commodification of Filipino seafarers. And we want to reclaim the voice and dignity of Filipino seafarers by centering their lived experience. So, many of our interventions, the ones that we want to use to help seafarers, are not based on seafarers' lived experience. So, Sikoloyang Pilipino is not like that. So, because of these three reasons, we can see that Sikoloyang Pilipino is a tool for social justice. We always tell people that Sikoloyang Pilipino is for the marginalized members of our society. No, and even with the large majority of our seafarers contributing to a large aspect of our economy, our Filipino seafarers sadly are always marginalized. And I think there is some truth, and we can see in how this particular room is structured. When the observation was made that our Filipino seafarers tend to sit at the back, and our esteemed VIPs sit in front. So that is a reflection of the marginalization of the seafarers. Okay, so I will talk to you about some concepts that could be useful if we want to craft mental health services or interventions that are culturally resonant with Filipino seafarers. One is the concept of loob. Do you, for Filipinos, do you use the term loob? Okay. So loob for us represents inner being or our inner self. So when we talk about ako, or me, or I, we tend to talk about what happens in our loob. So a philosopher, Filipino philosopher, said that loob is the essence or meaning of our pagkatao or personhood. What does this mean? Loob defines who we really are. And when we use loob, we talk about two aspects. The first is the more psychological, and the second is the more socio-moral. So when we talk of loob in its psychological sense, we talk of loob as containing what a person thinks, what a person feels, and what a person intends to do. yung kanyang will, yung kalooban niya. The social, and this reveals a person's inner psychological state. And this is relevant because we are talking about distress or wellness. No? So, when we want to describe wellness, we use terms such as maginhawa yung loob or magaan ang loob. Right? So if you use those particular terms which are absent in our standard mental health interventions, no, Filipinos are talking about wellness and distress. The social-moral aspect defines a mabuting tao based on how they treat others. So, good person is the moral aspect, no? But it is seen in how we treat others. So, that's the more social aspect. So, that's why this is social-moral, no? And this particular aspect idealizes characteristics in our culture that we want, no, people to have, such as busilak ang loob, no, malakas ang loob, matibay ang loob. So if we use the local language, no, we get access, no, to these particular concepts that resonate to our culture. And sometimes English does not cut it. No. And I really find it weird to talk about Sikoloyang Pilipino to a largely Filipino audience, no, in English. No. Okay. And we also know that loob is also finds meaning because of its relationship to the labas or the external. Alright? So for example, and I think this would be very interesting if you want to help a Filipino, no. So first, we want to you're interested to find out what kind of person is this person. No? So that's the more socio-moral, no, question. Or what is this person thinking or feeling? Diba? So if you're interested in finding answers to these questions, so if you're interested to find answers to these two questions, what do we usually do? And if, for example, you don't know this person enough, no? So usually, okay na ba? I can, yeah. So the first thing that we do is we use the labas, no? We look at external signs to infer about the other person's loob, right? No? So we look at the person's face, facial expression, no, etc. No, and then think about what kind of person is this, or what is this person thinking or feeling? Does this person look nervous, etc. No. However, we know, no, as Filipinos, we know that what is shown in the labas is not necessarily always congruent with what is in the loob. Right? But we are more interested in the loob, not in the labas. No. So what do? We use pakikiramdam or active sensing to hopefully accurately intuit, no, or infer or get to know the other person's loob. Right? No. So we're very careful to jump to conclusions about a person because sometimes just based on external signs. Because sometimes we know that, well, we have expressions such as nasa loob ang kulo or tulak ng bibig, kabig ng dibdib, no? So these expressions show that although loob and labas are related, they are not always congruent. So we have to use pakikiramdam, no? And this is a concept that Western-oriented interventions find difficult to understand because especially if they train, no, they provide training for counselors, no, they want a more direct approach. They want people to automatically say what is inside, no. But that's difficult for Filipinos, especially if the counselor is someone whom you do not know. So, in the survey question flash before, what did we see? The number one is talking informally to people whom we trust. That's the most, no, I think, based on the survey responses, that is what most Filipinos, or at least those who responded to the question, find the most effective. What is number two? No, a far second is talking to professional counselors. No. So, why is that? No, because there's no pakikiramdam, no, in these interactions, especially those who are Western trained. No. Okay, we talk about kapwa, no, and this is the second concept that I will present to you this afternoon. Kapwa is defined as a sense of shared identity of self and other. Again, this is a concept that foreigners find difficult to understand. Because for example, in English, they translate kapwa as other. So this leads you to a misinterpretation of the concept because if we say that kapwa is important to our psychology, no, then foreigners would interpret, therefore Filipinos are other-oriented. So that's a wrong interpretation. Because kapwa, no, is an interesting concept. It is a mix of the self and other. No? So this diagram will tell us where is kapwa. It is in the overlapping of self and other. Why are foreigners or Westerners having difficulty grappling with this concept? It is because their concept of self is clearly bounded. So self is self, other is other. But in the Philippines and other Asian cultures, we find we want a connection with others. We find it important to establish that particular connection. And in the Philippines, for us Filipinos, that is embodied in our concept of kapwa. No? So, and the sense of kapwa is strongest with what we call hindi ibang tao. Diba? So for example, if you have a new acquaintance and you feel that you are close to this particular person and the person acts as if he or she is a stranger to you, you tell them, no, why are you like that? No, you are. It's better said in Filipino, no. Bakit ka ganyan? Para ka namang ibang tao, 'di ba? So we tell people that that is not the way to act, no, if you have established a certain level of relationship, no. And if you establish a hindi ibang tao relationship, that is the time that you feel the strongest sense of kapwa with that person, no. What does this literally mean, no? Pag hindi ibang tao, no, we want to tell that other person that that person is like you already. Okay? So therefore, you will also want that person, you want to treat that person in the way that you want to be treated. So that's the idea of hindi ibang tao. No? And kapwa or the sense of kapwa is strongest in our hindi ibang tao relationships, such as our families and our friends. Okay? No? So, how does it translate to our mental health interventions? If we don't establish an HIT relationship with our counselors, it will be difficult for the intervention to work. Okay, so we have to understand how we Filipinos also understand distress. Our Western diagnostic categories such as depression only look for particular aspects such as depressed mood. However, when we talk about distress, no, sometimes we don't use this particular term. Actually, the way we understand depression is different from its diagnostic category. So, so if you are in distress, diba, these are the terms that we use. Masama ang pakiramdam ko. No? And it could mean a lot of things. No? Or mabigat yung pakiramdam ko. So, just recently, we have a group chat of faculty members, and we learned that a co-faculty during the storm, no, went out, no, to get groceries, and when they came back, they have no more. Their house burned down. So during the storm, they became homeless. No, and one faculty member said, "Ang bigat naman." No, so if we literally translate it or loosely translate it, this is very distressing. No, so again, the way that we understand wellness or distress is in a feeling or experience of lightness, gaan, no, or bigat or heaviness, no, not necessarily sadness, no, which is what is being emphasized by the concept of depression, no. But sadness is something that makes the feeling heavy. So, pabigat siya, no, nakakabigat ang kalungkutan. But that's not everything. And we can see, no, that physical symptoms are part of it, no. When you assess depression, for example, using our diagnostic tools, no, depression is different from the somatic symptoms. No. But there is a recent study that said that focused on Filipino seafarers, no, that the report of depression and physical symptoms are mixed. They are combined. So that tells us that for Filipino seafarers who were the respondents of this particular study, physical symptoms are a valid way to communicate stress. So our loob and our labas, our katawan, no, are connected. So another concept that I think we know, if you're Filipino, is the role of hiya, no? And it's difficult to translate hiya into English, no? So because it's a very complex concept and it has a lot of layers. So we will focus on the shame and propriety aspects of hiya for this presentation. No? So like all other Asian cultures, no, the expression of negative emotions is highly discouraged, right? No? Especially if you're doing it in public, no? Having a public meltdown is considered nakakahiya, no? And this is one translation, no, nakakahiya is embarrassing. No? But it's not shameful in that sense, no? So it's more social, no? But if you are a rating, for example, and you express direct displeasure at a superior, an officer, that is considered, no, a moral failing. That you will be considered walang hiya or shameless. No? So these two particular different aspects of hiya come into play depending on different situations. No? If you are committing transgressions of social conventions, that's nakakahiya. Or if you are violating moral conventions, that's kahiya-hiya. Or you will be called walang hiya. No? Hiya, no, regulates the expression of distress in Filipino culture. No? Especially for males who are expected to be matibay ang loob. No? So again, if we reinforce, no, reify the stereotype of the Filipino seafarer as resilient, no, we are, no, banking on these particular sets of meaning. No? So what I'm driving at is we are adding additional pressure, no, to our Filipino seafarers that they have to be always resilient and feeling and expressing distress, no, is nakakahiya or kahiya-hiya in this particular context. The third idea, no, which is resonant with Filipinos and might not be for other culture, is that distress for us is very relational. Again, Western style, no, models would look at distress as very individual. No? But what we can see that is that distress in the Philippines or among Filipinos is very relational. No? So depression, for example, this distress is not just sadness, but it's also pakikiramdam ng pag-iisa. No? So when we are alone or when we feel alone, no, when we are isolated, no, this is a very distressful experience. No? So the long periods of isolation on board is automatically distressing for our Filipino seafarers. No? Being apart from our kapwa, no, for example, our friends and families, no, is also automatically distressing. So, so distress is also felt when our kapwa is in distress. No, this is also one thing that I've noticed. Foreign mental health workers find difficult when they handle Filipino clients. No, so for example, a Filipino will disclose that they have problems. No, members of their family are experiencing distress. So they will tell you, so why is it problematic? No, we're talking about your problem. No, we're not talking about your family problem. No, but in the Philippines, no, when our kapwa network is in distress, we are also in distress because of our sense of kapwa. No, and we cannot take it out, no, and say that it's not helpful, no, or healthy because that is part of our culture. And relationship conflicts, no, cause us a significant amount of distress. No, so if we look at causes, no, or contributors, no, to a lot of our mental health problems, it has something to do with problems in our major relationships. No, so for example, in UP, so we have a psychosocial support and mental health service which is run by faculty members and students from our department. No, this is UP Diliman Psych Serve, and we cater to the whole UP Diliman community, students, faculty, and staff. No, so for students, for example, the rise of complaints related to mental health, no, their data is showing that it has something to do with family. No, family problems. No, so the problems are really very relational. So if we talk about distress as relational, then ginhawa, no, I think this is the word that we are advocating for us to use, no, when we talk about good mental health, no, or wellness. So ginhawa is also relational, no. So we experience ginhawa when we feel seen or accepted by our kapwa, especially those who are important to us. No? So when we say hindi ka nag-iisa, no, that uplifts us. No, that makes us feel very light inside. Gumagaan ang loob natin. Ginhawa is also felt when our kapwa also experience ginhawa. And this is one of the major motivations of our Filipino seafarers enduring, no, time away from their families, spending, no, hours, no, in dangerous waters because they want their families and loved ones to experience ginhawa. No, and one aspect of ginhawa is a comfortable life. No, so if they are able to provide a comfortable life, maginhawang buhay, no, that is a major goal. No, they find meaning, no, in that. And last, we feel ginhawa when our relationships are in order. So for example, even if you are not rich, you have not achieved economic ginhawa, no, but no, your relationships, your social relationships or relational ginhawa, no, is in order, no, people will still experience or claim to experience ginhawa in their lives. So again, I don't know of any mental health models currently in use, no, that take all these into account. Ah, Okay. What is very interesting is that because the idea of kapwa, no, combines the self and other, no. So we know that we can also rely on ourselves, no. So we have an interesting term, discarte, no. So one of our colleagues is doing her research on the term discarte, no. Uh, And we have seen, no, from narratives, no, from countless research on the lives of seafarers, is that they use their own discarte to cope with distress. So, for example, many turn to their faith, no, or some report renewed faith, no, in order to cope with the ever-present dangers of their lives on board. No. Some would find emotional release, no, from social events, no, leisure time on board, no. So that helps them cope with the stress that they experience on board, no. And some would find, no, to look for activities that distract them from focusing on their present distress. No? So, for example, exercise, pa ba mga nakaka-distract, hobbies, no? So, those are the things, no, that will distract you from your present distress, no? So, what was very interesting, even despite, no, our sense of kapwa, what we found out is that seafarers rarely tell their families about their psychological distress. Is this true? Is this also true for people that you know? No, I think a few years ago, a group of my students, no, for their research, talked to seafarers about what they tell other people about their lives on board, no, and with they use the term pakikipagsapalaran, no. So what stories of their pakikipagsapalaran do they tell, and whom do they tell these stories? And what they found is that they only tell their families a very generic description of their lives on board. No, they just say mahirap ang buhay marino, and that's it. No, and they don't go into the specifics. No, and what was their reason or motivation? They just want to communicate to their families to not underestimate the suffering or the sacrifices they are making. And also to a certain extent tell their families not to always ask for money, no, all the time. No. So they also want to communicate to their families that it's difficult to earn the money that they are sending home. No. So that's why they say mahirap ang buhay sa barko. No. But whom do they tell the actual stories of the difficulties? No. So why do they not tell their families? Because they do not want to worry, no, or to cause undue worry for their loved ones, because they cannot do anything about it because they are separated. No? So to avoid worrying or causing distress to their loved ones, which would cause additional distress to themselves because of the kapwa connection. No? So they do not tell their families. So if your intervention is focused on telling your families about your distress, that might not work. So instead, they rely on their other hindi ibang tao who are on board, their trusted kabaro. No. So emotional release happens through kwentuhan, storytelling, shared meals, and casual banter. So when work is done, no, they go to their cabinas, no, and or to other spaces, no, that where they can gather, no, lalo na yung mga Pinoy, no. So this is what they do, no, for some emotional release. And if they have a drinking session and they feel more comfortable, that is the time that they tell each other stories of their distress. No. And this led us to our conclusions, no, about the distress of our seafarers on board, no, that it is silent and it is silence. No. So suffering on board is both silent and silence. Silent because a seafarer withholds complaints or emotional pain to protect their family or crewmates. No. But it is also silence because they have no power on board. No. Since most of Filipinos are non-officers, they are ratings. No. A seafarer is suppressed, no, because of the precarity of their work, no, because we don't have as much legal protections to protect them, no. They are suppressed from speaking by power hierarchies and fear of retaliation, no. So paano kung hindi na ma-review yung kontrata nila kasi nagreklamo sila, no. So they become silent. So what can we do? No, as academics, for example, we could investigate, no, silence both as a relational strategy and a structural precarity of the work in the maritime industry. No? And this is very true, especially in institutions or spaces that are very hierarchical, like the maritime industry, like the military organizations, fraternities, for example, that are very hierarchical, and usually male-dominated, no, institutions are very hierarchical. And they have a culture of silencing, diba? Not telling others what is going on inside their organization. No? And that is potentially very distressing for people. No? Explore how hiya and pakikiramdam influence help-seeking behavior. No? Examine gendered and generational differences in emotional expression and coping now that we have increasing numbers of female seafarers. No? And last, map emotional suppression as occupational risks, no? Because of how the industry is structured. No? I think many of our guests are interested in the intervention. So the intervention should be culturally informed, not just evidence-based, because most of our evidence come from Western, no, respondents. No? So they should be also culturally informed. No? Create peer-led support circles grounded in pakikipagkapwa and kwentuhan. No? Integrate spaces for ginhawa, no, relief or wellness through music, prayer, humor, shared meals. These are already existing mechanisms. No, we do not have to create or invent these particular activities on board. Train officers in pakikiramdam-based sensing and response. So if you want to train, for example, foreigners dealing with Filipino clients, they have to be the ones to adjust, not the client. No. And develop family-based modules to address seafarers' emotional withholding for loved ones. So for them to figure out, no, find out in the way that the seafarers are interacting with them, are they in distress? Are there some of the things, what signs, no, that the seafarers are communicating but are not directly telling them? No, are these signs of that they are in distress? No, and last, I know that we have a Magna Carta for seafarers, no, and the law is quite new. So, but what I think the Philippines has a very good legislative framework. Ibig sabihin, magaling tayong gumawa ng batas. But it's in the implementation that we are lacking, no. So, other points of advocacy: mandate culturally informed mental health protocols in maritime education and shipboard policies. No? Again, this is for government who wants to always go international. No? But to go international, we have to be locally grounded. So if we want to be globally competitive, we do not we do not have to forget our culture. Internationalization doesn't mean always accommodating the Western style. reframe silence and emotional suppression as occupational hazards in labor protection. I don't know how protected, for example, whistleblowers are, no, in our laws, no, for seafarers. Enforce anti-retaliation safeguards for abuse and exploitation disclosures, and require culturally competent grievance mechanisms and relational safety audit. No, so is the environment on board, no, open, no, to those particular grievance mechanisms? No, can they complain without, no, the fear of retaliation? No. So what you can see, I am a psychologist, no, but what I presented to you goes beyond the traditional way psychologists will talk about, no, mental health. No, we will only usually psychologists will only talk about what you can do as a person, no. But that is not what Psicoloyang Pilipino is about, no, because all individuals are immersed in a particular context. And what we can see that the context where seafarers are working in or operating in are very precarious. No? So we have to also deal with structural issues in the occupation if we want to promote mental health. Not just focus on them individuals changing themselves to fit their environment. So I hope that this particular short talk has been meaningful, no, and helpful, no, to you. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. So if you have questions, just email us. I don't know if still have time for that, but thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you so much, Professor. Pero po, can we observe a working coffee break time for a short Q&A with Professor? Okay lang po. Baka po may tanong kayo. Kasi po, yeah, pwede daw kayo mag-Filipino. Ang galing po, Professor, kasi once narinig ko yung mga Filipino term, mas naintindihan ko. Kayo din po ba? Mas naramdaman ko yung psychology. No? So, kayo din ba? Ano yung mga gusto nyo itanong? Pwede nyo gamitin ng platform na to before we proceed to the next part of our program. Ako, Professor, may tanong ako kasi nahihiya yung mga seafarers natin eh. But, you know, I actively working with seafarers. Sometimes, extension po ako ng ICE1 helpline eh. Kasi tumatanggap ako ng tawag ng mga seafarers on board. Because of the circles. Because I used to be a seafarer as well. Now, gusto ko po itanong, I wanna grab this opportunity. Disclaimer lang po na medyo sensitive in a way, but I need to ask this for the seafarers, lalo na yung who are watching online. Kasi po, most of the seafarers, they always ask, they always say and ask. They say that most of the time, masturbation helps them. Parang yung kanina topic natin sa sariling sikap, how you call that? Sariling diskarte. Now, how does masturbation affect psychologically ang mga seafarers natin? Does it really help them?
Yeah. Sige, yung metaphor po natin kapag may problema tayo, di ba? Parang, isipin niyo yung problema na nararanasan natin. So, yung loob natin para siyang container. So, tapos lalagyan siya ng laman, di ba? So, pwedeng positive yon, pwedeng negative yon. But they fill up, no, the container ng loob natin, no. So, magkaiba yung bigat kapag positibo at negatibo. At alam natin yan, no, that's, I think, universal, no, na psychology for humans, that the negative have more weight. No, 'di ba? Mas naalala natin yung mga pangit nating karanasan kaysa yung mga positive. No, lalo na kapag kunwari malapit na kayo mag-break nung jowa mo, no. So mas naalala mo na yung mga times na nag-aaway kayo kaysa yung times na sweet kayo sa isa't isa, no. So yun. So dumadagdag yan at napupuno. Kaya nga natin sinasabi, bumibigat yung loob natin pag meron tayong problema. Tama? No? At kaya yung mga metaphors natin, diladala natin siya. So, anong kilalaman nun? Kaya importante yung release. So, yung release ay paraan para gumaan yung pakiramdam mo. No? And masturbation could be a way for a release of the tension that is already building up. No? However, panandalian lang yung tulong niya. No, kasi, kung kunwari, every time may problema ka, magma-masturbate ka lang para magkaroon ka ng release, pero yung problema mo, nandun pa rin. Kasi hindi mo naman siya directly na-address. No? So, there is some relief, no? Pero kung yun lang yung gagawin mo, nandun pa rin yung problem. Hindi mo siya nasusolusyonan. So, patuloy at patuloy lang siya na dadagdag doon sa bigat ng loob mo o nararamdaman mo. So, ewan ko kung naging tulong yon, no? Yes, and there is evidence that masturbation, because of the release function, no, provides some relief, temporary relief and comfort, no? But it's not the solution to your mental health concerns, no? Or the sole solution, no?
So, hindi po solusyon, no, na pangmatagalan. Saglit lang po. So, at least pag ano sa in the heat ka na stress ka na, pinapagalitan ka, yun. Anyway, baka may tanong kayo. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You have an additional? Can we please send this microphone to
Hindi
sir?
naman po ito sexual education program.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. First, I'd like to commend Sir Jay for masterfully framing the psychology in not only in Philippine context, but in Filipino maritime context. That was beautiful. I can say because I have been working with seafarers and I am a mental health instructors for seafarers. So I really appreciate how you explain it away na it's very Filipino. I share the same sentiments a while ago when you said na mas masaya sana kung siya na-explain. Pero nonetheless, my question po is, while we have been having SP for many years or decades, meron po ba tayong version or a framework after is Psikolohiyang Pilipino for maritime industry? Because just like many products in the Philippines, flooded po ang Pilipinas ng Western materials. And especially with mental health, puro Western yung materials that we use. Kaya nga, ang ganda po ng sinabi nyo na not only evidence-based, it should be culturally based as well. So, in my question po, in your experience, do you have po a material that we can use ng core Psikolohiyang Pilipino for maritime industry?
Well, meron po tayong ilang mga modelo na ginagamit, no? So there are a few that we can use for generic siya, no? So there are a few models. So one is the pagdadala model, and the other, and what I introduced to you is the Ginhawa model, no? So for example, the mental health, psychosocial support and mental health service in UP Diliman is based on the Ginhawa model, no? So the idea is that the intervention should promote the ginhawa of the client. So that's the idea. The second question is, can this be applicable to seafarers? I think pwede, pero I think there needs to be work done. No, and total na din-network naman at tayo ngayon, no. We will be interested to work with the maritime industry, no, to help develop those particular modules with you, no. I think importante din na the collaboration should be hindi yung kunwari yung mental health experts lang na magbibigay at mag-impose, 'di ba? So it has to be a collaboration between those who are in the practice or in the industry and those who are also outside of it, no. But I do see there are things that resonate, and then you can customize it according to the needs and use of those in the maritime industry. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much, Professor J. Nasagot naman po na, sir. Thank you so much. Another last question for this afternoon, I think. And then you can ask Professor J after, then siguro sama na lang natin sa panel after ng panel discussion natin. Ano? Thank you so much.
Meron po.
Ito, sir. Ta-translate ko Tagalog.
Kaisa po nila ako dun sa... Ako po si Eloy Calimoso, maritime journalist. Kaisa po nila ako dun sa... na-enlighten kami dun sa presentation nyo kaugnay ng Psikolohiyang Pilipino. Curious na ako, Professor, kung sa discussion nyo yung resilience as a trap, meron kayo nabanggit na yung pagiging compliant ng mga Filipino seafarers is harmful. May empirical data po ba tayo to support that or general observation lang po yun?
Well, yun po yung isa, sige, anin po natin. If you notice, doon po sa training program, no, para sa lahat ng mga kadete pa lang or mga bago sumampa, no, and even for all OFWs, I'm coming from that, no, it's not just the seafarers, no, because we are unfortunately exportable commodities, no, and the government is protecting all agreements with other countries, no, who receive our OFWs. And one of the primary or core message that they tell OFWs before they are deployed is that you should not bring shame, no, to the country. So, and to be able to do that, you would have to obey all your superiors every time, so they will not complain about you, no. And that is particularly very distressing, no. So, for example, if you are already being abused, no, and you are being told that you need to obey, then sometimes, no, people would interpret it as part of that admonition or order, no, that they will not complain. No? So that is why it is potentially, no, so potentially dangerous or harmful for our Filipino seafarers, for example. So why should the messaging be only one-sided? No? Why can't the messaging also talk about honor and dignity? No? That if you will bring honor and dignity to the Philippines if you also live honorably and with dignity abroad. No? And that you will, for example, parang be on the lookout for environments, no, workplaces that do not promote your dignity, right? No. So if we really value our overseas Filipino workers, as government, for example, we should not tolerate, no, any particular, no, atmosphere, policy that are detrimental to the dignity and honor of our Filipino seafarers. And that is, for example, the pay. So why is the pay, no, significantly different? No? And that's not just for these particular occupations. What I really found, for example, in humanitarian, no, field, mga NGOs na international, no, they pay Filipino humanitarian workers significantly less doing the same work, no, as they were European and American counterparts. And the idea is that because when we send remittances, no, to the Philippines, yung daw gagastusin naman daw dito mura lang kumpara doon sa mga Europeans at mga Amerikano na hindi naman nagpapadala ng remittance, 'di ba? So yung sweldo nila most probably sa kanila lang, no? But they are paid significantly more, no? And because if the Philippine government hindi siya iimik sa ganon, then this particular situation will continue. Kasi takot yung Pilipinas na baka mawalan tayo ng kontrata. Kaya hangga't maaari, huwag tayo magreklamo kahit na inaabuso na tayo. 'Di ba? So, real talk lang, no, yun yung iaano natin. But we forget that we are putting our Filipino workers in a situation that causes them significant distress. 'Di ba? So if we really want to real talk about mental health and we want to promote the mental health of our Filipino workers, we have to do something about unfair labor practices. Diba? And that's the only way. Now, give Filipino seafarers, no, yung dignified salaries. Para yung buhay nila marangal din. So yun po yung importante. No, there are a lot of things that we are not able to talk about, no. But we are willing at the Department of Psychology to have that ongoing dialogue, no. So with institutions in the maritime industry. So yun, no, because there's a lot to talk about, no, about mental health, no. So maraming salamat for this opportunity. Thank you po.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Professor J. Yakat, for the lecture. Lecture? Hindi pala presentation, sir, no? Lecture pala. Pero, sobrang laman eh. Malaman na malaman, di ba? Ayun, bala na kayo mag-reflect doon sa mga shinare ni sir. But when he said about the how we market our seafarers in the global stage should be reflected today and should be parang magkaroon tayo ng there's that kind of realization, no, when it comes to providing programs. Kasi why we need to contextualize every program to a local context is because nauuna po ang mga ibang bansa na magprotekta sa ating mga seafarers bago pa man tayo. Sa programang ito, tama naman po ba, di ba? ICE-1 is originated from the UK. Sir Rene, right? So, we need now to contextualize it. And we are in the right track with the think tank department, the MW, NMP. Bongga, talagang mapapaglaban natin.